Well, the Dodgers won the series if you go based on total runs scored versus total runs allowed. The Dodgers lost the series because the offense did not come through when needed. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. This is the daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, that's someone that listens or watches every day, you can make that easy on yourself by subscribing and get notified when episodes are ready for you, or when we're going live like we are right now, like I am right now on YouTube. If this is your first time listening, watching, my name is Vince Samperio. I'm usually joined by co-host Jeff Snyder. But Jeff's been holding it down for me a lot the last week and change. So I let him have the night off. He's been talking on the Locked On Dodgers postcast this whole series. So if you want to get your Jeff fix, you can go to check out the Locked On Dodgers postcast on our audio feed or on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team in a variety of ways. And one of those ways being this here podcast that we bring to you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes, hopefully making you a better Dodger fan, making us better Dodger fans in that same process. And we can all fan together. Nights like Thursday aren't fun to be fanning, whether it's together or not together, because the Dodgers lost. They only scored one run, and the top of the order, who, we've praised or have been the praise of the team, at least the offense for the most part this season, didn't come through when the Dodgers had the best chance to score. Overall, the offense, it was a, pretty flat night in terms of production. They had a total of 8 base runners, 5 hits, 2 walks, hit by pitch. Never really threatened. Their one run came on a home run by Andy Pages. Never really truly threatened. They did threaten there in the 8th inning when they got a hit by pitch and a single, hit by pitch to Kevin Biggio and a single by Austin Barnes. And when you get a single by Austin Barnes, you shouldn't waste it. And the Dodgers proceeded to have Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman all strike out almost on 9 pitches. Freddie took it an extra pitch or two, but it was not ideal. It was not fun. It was, not the type of game that you want to see, especially after scoring 15 runs in the first game of the series. The Dodgers scored 2 runs yesterday, 1 run on Thursday, and while they outscored the Rangers in the series, they lost the series. And I don't think there's a rhyme or reason as to why the Dodgers offense was bad. Obviously, on nights when Will Smith doesn't play, the offense is already going to be down a little bit. And it's one of those where, after Teoscar Hernandez, your lineup has pretty big drop off in terms of guys that have been consistently productive. Andy Pott has actually been one of those guys that might be back on the good graces of the offensive side. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but it's one of those things where you need your top of the order to do the work in games like this. They didn't do that work. When the bottom of the order did give them a chance, they didn't come through, and that's kind of what it comes down to. I have one of the bullet points here for the show as stars didn't come through when needed, and I think that's the big part of it, the big story. And, it's one of those where people can say a lot of different things as to why that is or why it happened. And, I see Craig here mentioning they need a day off once in a while. I've seen people say they, have no fight or didn't show up or whatever the case is. These guys want to hit. And when they don't hit, I'm sure they're more frustrated than we are, or maybe not. Some people do get extremely frustrated in a regular season game, but it's one of those things where sometimes you just don't have it, or clearly David Robertson had something in his repertoire and his plan or whatever, because he struck out Mookie, Otani, and Freddie back-to-back nights. So, whatever it was, whatever it is, it's hard to really put a finger on it. Sometimes you just get beat. And, sometimes I think we try to find so much against our own team as to why they're struggling, why they lost, why whatever. And sometimes, the credit does go a little bit to the other team. Obviously the Dodgers have a lot of talent and are a good enough team to where, for the most part, if they lose, you can pin it on them. But, sometimes you just get beat. And, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, the Rangers are defending champions. So, but, they're not the same team they were in October. And they're not the same team they're going to be in the next few months if they start getting guys back from injury. So sometimes you just lose. The Dodgers have lost series to bad teams or not as great teams, and then they win series against good teams. Regardless of how you feel about the Yankees series in terms of Juan Soto being out, the Dodgers won that series against a team that has a better record than them. But then they come and, they lose the series to the Rangers with a team with less record than them. So it wasn't fun. It was not great and, not ideal. The other part that I saw kind of get talked about is, the bullpen game part of it. We're going to get into that in the next segment as to, why a bullpen game, why it's probably not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things that they have a bullpen game every once in a while. But, I do want to talk here a little bit about, Roy has a comment. He says, this kind of performance will get in the playoffs and get disappointed again. Betts struck out with runners in scoring position, and then they get up there with first and third and they don't come through. I don't think there's any indication of what happens on June 13th as to what's going to happen in October. And realistically, if let's just say the Dodgers do have a October similar to the last couple of years. And I don't think it's because of what happened on June 13th. I think it's just a matter of they didn't come through when needed. And I don't think that's something you can predict. If you look at, if you look at the Rangers on June 13th last year, if you look at the Braves on June 13th in 2021, if you look at, even the D-backs on June 13th last year, like a lot of teams, what happens early in the season is not indicative of what's going to happen when it comes down to it and when it matters. And, that's the biggest part of it it's frustrating. And I know I'm one who doesn't believe in the team and the offense when it gets to October. Like I am fully expecting the offense to not score any runs. And, that's irrational in a sense, but also just a matter of, how the fandom comes down to it for me. But I don't think that right now on June 13th, like on June 13th, they could have scored 15 runs the last 5 games. They could score 15 runs every single game the rest of the season, and I'm still not going to feel comfortable in October. October is completely different. I don't think there's anything indicative right now that tells me, oh, this team is not going to be good when it comes down to it, because there's been a lot of teams that haven't been good early in the season that got good in a 2-week stretch in October, or snuck in and, got hot for a week in October and either knocked the Dodgers out or advanced, beyond that. The Nationals in 2019, that was a little bit aided by, some not so great decisions on the Dodgers end. But, they had the worst bullpen in baseball the entire time. And then their bullpen was really good in the postseason. And, they weren't good up until, what was the stat? Like up until June or July or whatever it was, they, were under 500, and then they ended up, catching fire, and guys came together and people hit. And I think that's more what happens. Like, to win in October doesn't mean much right now. I think it's a matter of getting hot when it matters. And, the Dodgers can help themselves by getting better players or figuring out better ways, whether it's lineup construction or, like I said, acquiring better players or someone figures it out offensively, whatever the case is. There are different ways to get to that point to give you a better chance. But at the end of the day, you have to come through for it. So, but like I said, bullpen game is always going to be a questionable decision. It appears when it comes to bullpen games. Why did the Dodgers go with the bullpen game? Should they have gone with the bullpen game? Should they ever go with the bullpen game? We'll get into more about bullpen games coming up. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Tax Network USA is here, for Locked On Dodgers fans or hosts of Locked On Dodgers. We pride ourselves here on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year round. And you know what else is year round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS is going to stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. Taxes are not easy. It's probably one of the most difficult things as an adult to kind of figure out. You can get it done for you. Even when you get it done for you, are you really entirely sure that you're doing it right? But if not, Tax Network here at USA is here to help you out because they have over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. They have saved clients over $1 billion in tax debt. So if you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. That's 1-800-549-1000 or tnusa.com/lockedon. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. And remember, you can find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. Remember, the Locked On Dodgers postcast is available after most Dodger games. It's been Jeff Snyder for the last few games, but it's usually Pete Fox. He's there after almost every Dodger game on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel or on our audio feed. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today, another 24/7 streaming channel from the Locked On Podcast Network. Brings the biggest news and stories from the sports world right there for all day and night. And if you want to go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider, you can go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us when there's news that happens, like on Thursday, once the game got started. Shortly after, we got some news that the Dodgers had made a trade. They traded for Jose Hernandez, who had recently been designated for assignment by the Pirates. Ryan Brazier moves to the 60-day IL to make room on the 40. Not a big deal on Brazier's end. He's already missed a lot of time, and he's not expected back relatively soon. So it's just a matter of paperwork moving him to the 60-day IL. Hernandez was with the Dodgers before he got taken in the Rule 5 draft. This year, he's pitched 5 1/3 innings in the big leagues, has a 3.38 ERA. After a bullpen game, I could see him getting called up for this weekend, bring in some depth, especially with the 13 games in 13 days. And then maybe, he does have options. So it is a matter of if they keep him on the 40-man roster, they can option him down and see what happens. If they do like his stuff or if they feel like there's something they can unlock. Obviously, with him being in the organization already, they have some familiarity with him. But, I wouldn't expect too much. But we probably said the same thing about Anthony Banda. And Anthony Banda has been pretty good for the Dodgers since getting acquired. So we'll see. But the other part of it is bullpen game. And bullpen game is, it's not the most fun way to enjoy baseball. You like to see starting pitchers. Starting pitchers are normally the bigger stars, and you like to have some stability there. The Dodgers went with a bullpen game, and it depends on what you define success. The success in the terms of a win, no, that was not successful. Success in terms of giving the Dodgers a chance to win, yeah, it was successful. 3 runs in 9 innings, with this offense against, Michael Lorenzen has been decent this year, but, not a world beater by any means. And it didn't work out. And, I see here John Jordan asks, checking the stats on the bullpen games we actually win and the team record for the 2 games following. I don't have the team record for the 2 games following the bullpen games, but I do know that Bill Plunkett put out a tweet earlier today that since 2022, the Dodgers, before tonight's game, they were 13-8 in bullpen games with an ERA over 3. They were 2-1 this season with an ERA of 3. So 13-9 now. So, not great, but, over 500. And realistically, like, there was a point a couple seasons ago where the Dodgers bullpen game was the 5th starter pretty much. And I think that is an issue for sure. I think the way the Dodgers have done bullpen games this year has been more so a little bit out of necessity when they are trying to give guys extra rest. And I don't generally have a problem with the way they've approached it this year. I am not a fan of bullpen games in general, but if you're going to have bullpen games the way the Dodgers have done it this year, has been okay for me. You can quibble about, well, why don't they just bring up a starter for the day, or whatever the case is. And Bobby Miller made his final rehab start on Thursday night, and it didn't go very well in terms of results, but if he's healthy, that's what really matters. He'll be back in the next time in the rotation, or fit somewhere in this rotation the next time through. But for that, even if Landon Eck, I don't even know if he was ready to go, if they had called him up or when he last pitched. But Landon Eck's already been optioned a couple times this year. They can only option him 5 times total before he has to either stay in the big leagues. And I don't think you're going to waste one of those when he's not going to stay in the rotation. You're not going to call up Landon Eck, who would have been a better option to pitch today, but then you send him back down and you would kind of, waste one of those 5 options on one start. If he was coming up and, hey, you're going to get a couple times through rotation, that makes more sense. So I think, again, for the bullpen game specifically on Thursday, it's just the nature of them wanting to give guys rest. Yoshinobu, Roberts talked about Yamamoto getting the extra day because, it was a big game against the Yankees, the most pitches he's thrown this year, and all that type of stuff. So you want if you lose a game on June 13th, and again, Roving Gambler here says pitching wasn't the problem tonight. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you lose a game in June because you went with a bullpen game, and the bullpen game only allowed 3 runs, I don't think it's an issue of effectiveness. I think in general, bullpen games, especially with the Dodgers usually have a good bullpen. And when you do go to bullpen game, you're probably going to have low scoring on the other side because you're putting your guys in positions to throw 1 inning or 2 innings if they're a guy that's stretched out a little bit more. And, relievers are usually on the Dodgers a little bit more successful than, maybe one starter would be over the course of 3 times through a lineup. But it's something that's going to happen. The Dodgers are going to have bullpen games. They're going to have more bullpen games throughout the year. There's going to be a bullpen game where you think, oh man, why are they doing a bullpen game? I can promise you for the most part, it's for a good reason, whether one of those reasons being saving starters' arms, whether one of those reasons being, they just have a lot of games in a row and they want to get, a 6-man rotation going, but not a full on, or a last minute type of bullpen game. Or, the bullpen games that are the worst are the ones that are not expected when a starter doesn't go deep. So I think I understand the issue with bullpen games from the fans' perspective, but I do think this year the Dodgers specifically are using it better. I do think what was it, 21 or 22 when bullpen game was the number 5 starter. I was not a fan of that. When bullpen game is maybe a once a month, once every 6 weeks, or once every 3 to 4 weeks occurrence, I don't have an issue with that. And again, they only allowed 3 runs, and Michael Grove starting, maybe that the sequence of the guys maybe would have been, I don't know if Michael Grove starts because he has experience starting, or if he starts because he had thrown the night before and the Dodgers wanted to be able to better control how many pitches he throws. I'm not entirely sure what the answer is there, but in the couple games he's been an opener this season, he hasn't been good. So maybe it's a matter of if they have another bullpen game, don't let Michael Grove start it, and maybe that'll be better. So yeah, that's all I got on bullpen games. We're going to talk a little bit about Andy Pages, and is he back offensively? He's looked really good the last couple weeks, and that would be a big boost for the Dodgers over the course of the season, or as the season progresses. He is a rookie. We're not entirely sure what to expect, but if he can do what James Outman did last year, the Dodgers will be better off for it. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. The Game Time app is extremely clutch. The NBA Finals are going on right now, NHL, the Stanley Cup is going on right now, the Dodgers are going on right now. It's summer. There's a lot of concerts going on right now. Game Time is here to make it easier and faster to get those tickets you want at the prices you want as a game or event gets closer. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets and takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. NBA Finals might just have one game left. If you are in that area, you can check it out and go. But right now it's Dodger season. This weekend, hey, you know what? You want to take your dad out for Father's Day and get him a cool Dodgers sun hat that they're giving out at the game. You go to the Game Time app and they got last minute deals. If you're looking on Sunday, they got flash deals that go on throughout the weekend. They got zone deals, which let you pick a section, and they got deals there. And they have the lowest price guarantee. You'll get 110% of the difference if you find tickets on another app cheaper than the same row or section that you got on the Game Time app. So check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's the Game Time app, code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening, watching every day. Make sure to tell your friends and family so they can become everydayers. And make sure to subscribe. We have a lot of people that listen or watch on YouTube, but not necessarily subscribe. Just click that subscribe button. It's a little bit easier. And, you'll help us on the road to 10K is the next big milestone. We're just over 6K right now. We're starting to trek to 10K, hopefully by end of season. So let's make it happen and do all that. And remember, you'll be on the podcast from a Locked On Dodgers Insider. Join subtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. I mentioned the breaking news you would have got sent directly to your phone if you weren't paying attention earlier. You also, if you were a Locked On Dodgers Insider, you would have got some videos from batting practice and Shohei Ohtani throwing baseballs before the game. So, make sure to go check that out. All right, let's talk about Andy Pages, because last night was not a good Andy Pages night in the sense of he made the last out, ran through the stop sign, and a lot of people were upset with him, rightfully so, running through a stop sign. But again, I can understand his mentality of, hey, I saw the outfielder bobble it and I thought I could score. There's different schools of thought in terms of where Pages should be looking when he's running the bases. But, MLB player, Little League players, we teach them, you're running and you're picking up the third base coach. If you're running a second, you're picking them up around halfway, you get second. If you're running, rounding second and you're thinking about going home, you're picking them up halfway or whatever the case is. MLB players operate a little bit different. Like they have a little bit more ability to look around and see what's happening, especially if it's in front of them. And, if Pages just saw the bobble and then went and was just like, I'm going no matter what, that's understandable. The bobble, if it would have got past, if it would have hit him off of him and went past him, like rolled toward the wall, he would have scored easily. And maybe that's what he thought happened. I don't know. But regardless, we're here to talk about the good part of Andy Pages, which is that he's been hitting very well the last couple weeks. In his last 51 at-bats, he's hitting 373 with the slugging percentage of 529, on-base percentage of 458. Still striking out a decent amount there, 14 strikeouts in those 51 at-bats, but a couple homers, 7 walks, 11 runs scored. Like, that's the guy that was hitting 300 when he first came up, and we were like, wow, is this guy going to be for real? And then, he had that rough stretch, and now he's seemingly starting to figure it out a little bit more again. And, on the season, he's sitting at 270 with an OPS of 747. You'll take that from a rookie, especially a guy that's playing a little bit out of position in center field, and a guy that wasn't even expected to be up here right now, for the simple fact of we expected James Outman to be the center fielder for the Dodgers, and we expected Hayward and someone else to be in right field and Tasker to be in left field. So for the Dodgers, Pages being good again lengthens the lineup. You're still missing Max Muncy, because Max Muncy gives you 5 major league quality hitters, and then if Andy Pages continues to be what he's been the first few weeks of his career and now the last 2 weeks of his career, then that's, that gives you 6 MLB quality hitters. And then you deal with the bottom of the order, which could be addressed via trade. Gavin Lux, as much as we keep wanting to say he's been looking better, at the end of the day, he looks better for a few games, and then he doesn't look better for a few games. And I don't know if we're going to get that consistency out of him. And I don't know, right now he's kind of riding the wave in there just because Muncy's out, and there's not necessarily any trades available right now that the Dodgers might make. So he might be in there for a little bit longer, but I don't know if he survives the entire season if he continues to hit the way he's been hitting. And then you have, the other outfield spot, which is why the Dodgers will probably be looking for an outfielder, because, Hayward, how long can you really wait for him? And the injury kind of threw him off, obviously, but how long can you really wait to be like, okay, is he going to be, even if he was what he was last year, it's not like that was a game changer. It was just a matter of he was good against right-handed pitching, and it helped out. So the Dodgers need, I've seen a lot of comments, not just on here, just in general, social media and everything else, of, oh, the Dodgers need this, the Dodgers need that, the Dodgers need that. Realistically, they do need at least one more bat. Like, if it comes down to bare minimum, what you need one more bat and maybe one more arm, just because for health purposes, whether that's a starter or whether that's a legitimate reliever, like one more extra arm helps you out, and one bat. And you have to hope, but that's, again, you're hoping that Andy Pages can keep it up. You're hoping that, if Hayward can't keep it up, then James Outman comes back up and maybe he's figured something out down there. You're hoping that Lux figures it out, but it doesn't seem that way. So that's what realistically, and again, the Dodgers, as presently constructed, there's no reason to think they can't win, but it's a matter of performing when it matters. And that's always what it's going to come down to in October. The Dodgers have had teams that have been really, 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 really good and didn't have too many holes during the regular season. And then nothing came to it when it mattered in October. So, but yeah, when it comes to Pages, there's going to be complaints about the outfield defense. And again, he's probably playing a little bit out of position as a center fielder. You would hope that he can get better as the season goes on. And, realistically, he hasn't been as bad as maybe people make out to be, but he hasn't been as good as you'd want him to be. So he's a little bit kind of stuck in the middle. But if he can continue to hit, it just gives you a chance to be like, okay, we can acquire someone that does play center, or we can acquire someone that just plays outfield or only the corners. It gives you the flexibility to not have to focus on someone that can specifically play center field if he can, continue to hold it down out there in the outfield. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And we have a comment here from Dark Saints. Says, trade the farm for Luis Robert and Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. Garrett Crochet had a good night in Seattle. He struck out 13 guys, won 7 innings. He's now tied or the league leader for strikeouts. or American League. I don't know if he plays Glasnow. But yeah, I mean, that realistically, if you could line up on a Robert and Crochet trade, there's some value there, even if it costs some of the bigger names in the Dodgers farm system, because you have extra years beyond this year. It's not just like half a season of these guys. You're getting them beyond this season. And those are guys that could help you beyond this season and would fill, would fill that one bat and one arm that I mentioned as what the Dodgers really need right now, or bare minimum need. And that would be, an ideal matchup for a trade partner. The White Sox have made some trades with the Dodgers in the past. Yeah, you would imagine they like their farm system and they could match up there. But as we've talked about a lot here in the last few weeks, like there's going to be a lot more names that kind of come through as teams maybe separate from buyer to seller or seller to buyer, whatever the case is. And the Dodgers can count on health to help them on the pitching. Like if the Dodgers can get everyone healthy, and when that means Kershaw, Miller, Yamamoto, Glasnow, if they can have like 8 deep healthy, you can feel comfortable going into the second half of the season or post trade deadline with, okay, if we have injuries to 3 or 4 guys, that's just bad luck and we can't do anything about it. But, with Buehler, again, that's another one. Like Buehler's going to have 3 or 4 more starts before the trade deadline. You're going to have to figure out, like, is he going to get back to what we think, or is it going to take a little bit longer? Nate Eovaldi on the other side, he's with the Rangers. He came back from the second Tommy John and, kind of struggled a little bit. And not till that next year in 2018, when he was with the Red Sox and, he was a World Series champion and really helped them out in different ways. And, the Dodgers don't have that luxury of waiting another year for Buehler because he is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. But that's why they need to see if he can do it now. And Kershaw, as much as we love Kershaw and want him back, like it's going to take at least a month for him, at the very latest a month, probably like more 6 weeks for him to get back pitching for the Dodgers. And even then, like he's not necessarily someone you want to have to count on in October. He's someone that, okay, if he pitches really well down the stretch, we'll consider him for the postseason roster. You got Glasnow, you got Yamamoto up top with those two. Gavin Stone, if he continues the way he's going, like could find himself into an October pitcher. Bobby Miller, when he comes back, if his stuff is looking good and the way it should be, then you got a lot of arms to consider. So I think the Dodgers can focus on the offense, look for that bullpen arm, and hope that health remains the same until July, because it's a lot different this year right now than it was the last couple of years, where the last couple of years the Dodgers maybe didn't make the biggest splash in terms of, or they tried. Like last year they had Eduardo Rodriguez. He said no. They were in the mix for Justin Verlander. He wanted to go back to Houston. But you can figure out ways to make your starting rotation or your pitching staff as a whole better if your starting rotation's intact. And last year they were, last couple of years we've been waiting on arms to come back in order to be like, oh, okay, well, if all these guys come back, we'll be in a good spot. Right now they have all those guys. Kershaw would be a luxury if he does come back. Assuming Bobby Miller, everything was good on today's starting, he comes back into the rotation next week. So all in all, to say, we don't know much about what's going on in terms of, or what's going to happen over these next 6 weeks, 7 weeks until the trade deadline. But we know that the Dodgers, they could be in a lot worse place, and they could be in a lot better place, obviously. So they'll wait and see, and we'll see what happens. And you got to hope that Andy Pies can keep it up. You hope that some of these other guys can figure it out, but realistically, the Dodgers are going to have to make some upgrades, and we look forward to seeing what those are. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us where you get podcasts and on YouTube by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Make sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world all day and all night. The Locked On Dodgers postcast is part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube and our audio feed. Usually Pete Fox is hosting. Jeff has been hosting this week. You can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can text message with us. You get our thoughts on, we'll get breaking news, our thoughts, our reactions, all that type of stuff, and other little positive or negative quirks as the season goes on from there. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. You can find us. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us if you have any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, take smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.